Good evening, everyone. Here we are for another Copper Coin show. This one's going to be a mystery coin draw. Here's how it works. I have a bunch of chips in this here bag. Oops, spilled one. A bunch of chips with people's names on them. Okay? In this bag. And I'm going to draw these chips one at a time. Each person I draw is going to get the next coin in the box. That's how it works. Can everybody hear me fine? The coins in this box are, I'm going to say they're all Lincoln cents. They are valued between, I'm going to say $1 or $2 all the way up to $40, $50 per coin. And we have some special bonuses. Immediately after I draw one of these chips, I will draw another chip, and the name I draw will get this added to their account. These are $10. They're like gift cards. So there's $10 here for each time I draw. You looking at me? 7 times $10, folks. And then we're going to have a runner-up grand prize. It's a $20 chip. And then a grand prize, $50 chip. That's right. Some lucky person here could win as much as all of this, because I'm not going to do no doubles. So if you get a chip, you can get another chip, and another chip, and another chip. So that's how it's going to go. I'm going to toss all these in the bag, and I'm going to get started. I had issues with being able to get online. I have storms running through the area right now, so that might prevent us just a little bit in getting through the show. So in case we do get cut off, I'm going to attempt to come back on. And if it doesn't work, we'll pick it up tomorrow evening. If that does not work, we will pick it up tomorrow evening. So here we go. Ready to get started. I'm going to draw the first chip out, and the first chip is Penny Hoarder. Let me get it focused here. All right. There's Penny Hoarder and the first coin in the box. In completely random order, I have no idea. 1948D BU coin. 1948D BU. I've not checked any of these for double dies, repunchment marks, anything to that effect. That's your job, not mine. So you guys can do that. All right, here we go. Second chip drawn. And this is how this is working. Second chip drawn is Sharp Eye. Sharp Eye gets a 1913D. 1913D Lincoln cent. So far, both of these coins have been worth way over the $1.75. Try to give you guys great value for your money. Third chip drawn. JJ Addict. JJ Addict gets, what's a 1936S? 1936S Lincoln cent. Next up, Stanley. Stanley with a 1937 Philadelphia. 1937 Philadelphia. Nice uncirculated coin. What I usually charge for those, around $7 or $8. You guys are going to like this draw. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Oh, looky there. My grand prize winner coming right up. You guys ready? We're not even a half dozen chips in. Grand prize winner coming up here. Next person I draw gets this. I drew a person. Mr. Sappington. Mr. Sappington, are you around? You happen to be here, where I can congratulate you on winning $50. You get a $50 certificate, and there he is. He's playing the drum roll after I drew it, but of course I know. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put your name on this $50 chip right here. That way I can remember who it went to, and I will annotate you later. But what we're going to do now is draw your coin. Next coin out. Well, the holder's got a little icky to it, but it's a 1948S. 1948S uncirculated Lincoln cent. There we go. See, that's how it works. You're going to get $50 in credit. You can use it anytime you want to use it, during auctions or reveals or however you wish. Stephen. Next up, Stephen. 1943D uncirculated. 1943D. Next up. Who we got next here? Otis. Otis. 1948D. It's got a little bit of a Larry on it, but it's a nice uncirculated coin. All right, next up. We'll go with Stanley. Stanley, next up. How about a 1912D? 1912D. I'll help you fill the earlier gaps in your book. 1912D. Oh, here's the thunder. More thunder. You like today's pull. Here's Crispy. Crispy coming up next gets a 1932. 1932. That's a pretty nice coin there. I don't think any of the ones that I've drawn so far have been worth less than the $1.75 you paid for these spots. Hello, Lynn. Who's up next? Ted Evans. Mr. Ted Evans. Ted Evans gets a 1937 Lincoln cent. It's an AU. Now that one is worth less than the $1.75, but there's a law of averages going on here, where you're going to get a few every here and there that are worth less, but most are going to be worth more. Most are going to be worth quite a bit more. Here's another one for Crispy. One for Crispy. Is a 1941. 1941 Lincoln cent. I have not checked any of this for errors. I've not checked any of it for die varieties. I've not checked any of it, so you're going to have to look at your coins when you get them. Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn up next, and Jeff Dunn gets a 1948S. 1948S uncirculated. Up next, Petraeus. Petraeus with a nice 1943 Philadelphia. 1943 Philadelphia. Next up, Stephen Dallas. Stephen Dallas will get a 1949S. It's an uncirculated coin. It does have some slight issues, coloration and whatnot. Let's move to the next coin. Next coin. Hello, Steve. I just pulled yours. Here's Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne gets a 1948D. 1948D. There's rust on those staples. They're so old. That's been in that holder for a long time. All right, next up. How about Sharp Eye? Sharp Eye gets, well, it's a beautiful uncirculated 1946D. There you go. And let's see, who do I pull next? Mr. Fletcher. Jim Fletcher, how about a 1930S? 1930S. Lincoln Cent. This is a nice XF to AU coin. And next up, Kelly Ray. Alright, Kelly Ray will get a 1946D. Nice uncirculated 1946D. There we go. Next up, Mr. Worley. But a 1933D. 1933D. Last issue of the early set and a difficult one to obtain. Worth quite a bit more than many of the coins in the teens and 20s. Here's Carl Ignatz. Carl gets a 1946D. Nice 1946D there. Hello, Otis. And now we have, well, Carl again. Gosh, out of this many, I couldn't imagine drawing the same person twice. Here's 1939. A 1939 uncirculated Lincoln Cent. Let's look at that strike issue around the S and the U of Pluribus Unum. It's interesting enough. All right. What do we got next? Jim Fletcher. Jim Fletcher gets a 1936D. 1936D. It's nice 1936D. All right, let's see what we got next. Next up, Brendan Burke. 1947 plain. 1947 plain is a very expensive roll to get. That's 1/50th of a very expensive roll. Next up, Bo Palmer. Bo, 1912D. 12D in good condition, or AG. Yeah, it's an AG. All right, next. Kimberly D. Is she around? Kimberly D gets a 1909. Nice one, too. Nice little 1909. It's got a Woody. Yay, she's got an early Lincoln, she's got a Woody, and she's got a pretty nice condition coin here. So there we go. Let's see what's up next. Parviz Noah gets a 1949. 1949. It's got luster on it. It is an uncirculated coin. It is brown, though. Don't pay any attention to the grades or the prices on these holders. Most of these holders came from boxes of coins that were in an old dealer stock, and I did not pop the holders, change them, or anything. I just left them in the same holders. They're protected all the same. But the grading and the pricing is just wrong. Here is a 1948S. See, this one says it's an AU coin. It's worth 85 cents. This is actually a 62, 63 red, and it's worth more like $3. All right, here we go. Next up, Stanley with a 1938D. 1938D. Next up, Gulf Coast. How about a 1938S? 1938S for Gulf Coast. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'll move this down just a little bit. One for Stanley here. Let's move down just a little bit. Get us a little closer so the coin comes out a little larger. Takes up more frame. But a 1948S. Nice little 1948S. Is anybody regretting being involved in this yet? Because I don't think you're going to regret it. Mr. Wise comes up next with a 1943. Nice little 1943. Who is up next? It's the first 1.5 by 1.5. It's Carl. This is the older 1.5 holders. I've put it into a 2 by 2 size holder so it'll fit right. But this is a 1932D. 1932D. It's one of the tougher ones to get. Let's see. What do we do next here? Next up, Ted Evans. Ted Evans. How about a 1933 for Ted? 1933. Next up, Brendan, Mr. Burke. But a really nice looking 1948D. Really nice red uncirculated 1948D. And then Dunny Wayne. Dunny Wayne. 1912D. 1912D. For Dunny Wayne. Let's look up another person here and see what we get. How about Farm Dog? Farm Dog with a 1941D. 1941D for Farm Dog. Hello, Jim. Pull this out. And I meant to have little pictures of the chips that I could click off once they were pulled, but we'll just have to keep track of it. I'll put this back here so we can see it. That's Mr. Sappington's $50. Let's see what I have next. Otis. Otis gets a 1923S. 1923S. It's one of the tougher S-mints for the 1920s. 1923 and 1926 are both relatively difficult to get. What's next? Ant 2242. This is 1946D. 1946D for Ant. And Fat Fool. Interesting name. 1931D. 1931D, those are tough to get. Not near as tough as a 31S, but they are still tough. Who's up next? Well, our grand prize winner gets a 1946D. Very nice looking 1946D, full red BU coin. And next, Parviz again. Parviz gets, well, that really tough 1933D. 1933D. They turn out to be quite difficult to obtain. If you get looking for them in bags or in wheat rolls, they're going to be really hard to find. Here's one for Paul. Paul Hampton. 1946S. It's got a Larry on it, but it is an uncirculated coin. That's for Paul. Let's see what's up next. JJ Addict. JJ Addict gets a 1939. 1939. And here's Jesse. Jesse Minter picks up a 1936S. 1936 S for Jesse. Who do we get next? Well, there's Jesse again. Jesse this time gets a 1947D. 1947D. Next in, Ant 2242. And Ant picks up a nice uncirculated 1945D. Or 1945 plane, sorry. 1945. There's that. And you'll notice that I am going a little bit quickly. I'm trying to get this in under 3 hours. Here's Stephen Dallas again. Stephen Dallas this time picks up 1948. Uncirculated, 1948. Next up, Patreus. How about a 1950D? It's got a couple of spots on it, but it's a 50D, uncirculated. Finally, it sounds like the thunder's starting to go away. Let's see, what do we got next? James Worley. Mr. Worley. 1950. And then Sissy. Sissy picks up a 1949S. 1949S. It's one of the tougher coins to get in the 1940s. I think the only one that's more difficult than that would be the 42S. Let's see, what do we have? Oh, well, there's Sissy again. How about that? Well, with the 49S, she gets a 1949 plane. 49 plane to go with the 49S. And up next, well, I know it's a BU wheat cent. You can see that in the box. And it's going to be from Mr. Fletcher. Let's see what it is. 1944D. Remember, I haven't scoped any of these. I haven't looked at any of these up close. There could be anything in here. Let's see, Marshall. Marshall now with a 1945. 1945, very nice. Choice to Gem BU 1945. And up next, Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn with a 1932D. 1932D. Let's see, what else do I have? Mr. Boudreau. Mr. Boudreau. How about a 1940S? 1940S. Last year in the early book. And you move on to the book number 2. No, Carl, no 1955 DDO. In fact, I think I stopped at 1950. I don't think there's any coins in here newer than 1950. Here's a 48S for Sissy. Let's see who's up next. Brendan Burke. How about a 1943D? Everybody asks, how do you tell the difference between the reprocessed coins and the natural real coins? Or the original ones? These are original. The 1943s in here are not reprocessed. So that'll help you determine the difference. JJ Addict. 1949S. 1949S. Remember, be sure to check these coins closely for repunchment marks, double dies, or any other errors. Because I did not check any of them. Here is a 1950 Philadelphia. That's for Crispy. What's up next? Techstar. Techstar out next with a 1948 plane. 1948 plain. That's for Techstar. Next person, Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley grabs a 1912D. 1912D in VG. What's up next? Let's see. Oh, Sissy again. Sissy picks up a 1930D. 1930D. Brendan again. About a 1938D. I was going to put out a video on that. I have been quite busy, unfortunately. I'm really working toward the idea of trying to get someone else in here working with me full time so that I can have the time that it takes to publish more information, because I'm certain that that would do both you and me some good. Here's a 48S for Angie. Next up, Farm Dog. Farm Dog gets a very nice uncirculated 1943. Very nice one. Next up, Paul Hampton. And how about a 1946? Hello, 710 is oil upside down. Let's look at the next one. Next one's going to be from Marshall. Marshall Dragon 1946. Philadelphia 1946P. And up next, hey, we have a $10 winner. Who is our $10 winner? Oh, look what I did. So whoever this is going to be a $20 winner. Drum roll, please, for my $20 winner. Dun, 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 dun. Well, do you know your color? It's that color of a chip. Who do you think it is? Is it you, maybe? Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne, $20 winner. Donnie Wayne, by virtue of getting 2 of the $10 chips, Donnie Wayne is a $20 winner. So, $20 gift certificate to use at the auctions or at reveals for Mr. Donnie Wayne. And I'll put those up top. And Donnie Wayne now gets his coin. His coin is a 1948D. Nice uncirculated 1948D. So you not only for $1.75, he got $20 plus a really nice 1948D. How do you go about that? All you have to do is show up here. Crispy up next. Not everybody will win, but everybody will be happy that somebody won, right? 1913D. VG 1913D for Crispy. That's about a $3 coin there. Who's up next? Up next will be Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn, I hope you needed a 1909. Got a 1909 right here for you. 1909 Lincoln set. And next, Carl. Carl, how about 1927D? 1927D, nice VF coin. 1927D. Birds are chirping again. I guess the weather's going away. Well, how about Jeff Dunn? Okay, Jeff Dunn gets a 1949. 1949. Hello, Stephanie. I bet that last name is Pena. No, you don't have a tilde. How are you doing today? I hope very well. A bunch of happy campers here. Stephen Dallas. I thought you already picked one of these up, but this is a 1946D. Uncirculated 1946D. Now everybody's after the prize. Everybody's after the prize. There's Paul Hampton. How about Paul Hampton gets a nice 1931D? 1931D. That's a VF 1931D. Anybody want to look that up? It's about a $8 or $10 coin, I think. There we go. She found the pena. How are you doing, Stephanie? Is it a great day for you as it is for us? Here's a 46D for Gulf Coast. 1946D for Gulf Coast Treasures. See what we've got next. I do have a ticking clock in the room. It's my Steelers clock. Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn gets a 1933D. 1933D. For Jeff. At my ticking clock. There's my ticking clock. Is it interesting to watch? You might want to register with us and get in on the next one. These were $1.75 a piece. We've already had a guy win $50 out of this. Here's Techstar with a 1946S. That is not toning on the coin. That's the plastic on the holder making it look that way. Actually, you know what? No, I'm wrong. It is toning on the coin. It looks about that color. It's not quite as extravagant as it looked in the beginning. Different colors of lights shining on it, so it kind of makes them spread out a little bit in the spectrum. Can you hear it now? I guess you probably can. All right, Sharp Eye is next. Sharp Eye comes out with a 1939. 1939 for Sharp Eye. Kind of in hopes that you might be able to find a double die. 1939 is one of those years that has a few. Let's see. Yeah, Donnie Wayne won $20. Here's one for Stanley. Mr. Sappington won $50. It's a 37S for Stanley. Yeah, it's because it's not. It's if I stand the clock up, it makes noise. But if it's laying down, it doesn't make any noise. All right, let's see who is next. Sissy. Well, Sissy gets a 1946S. Nice little 1946S there. Let's see who's next. Rockzilla. I think that's our first pull for Rockzilla. 1938D for Rockzilla. And that is that box. One and done, start again. Here we go. Get this thing in here so I can hold the coins up. Next in the bag, Gulf Coast. Next in the box, 1940D. 1940D. Oh, no, that's a 49. It's marked improperly. It's marked as a 40. It's actually a 49. I'll let you change that. That's a 49D. Let's see, what's next? Malcolm. There's going to be some super coins in this too. We haven't run into any of the really super coins yet. There's a 48D. There's at least one 1911S in here. At least one. There's other goodies, but I remember the 11S. Here's Sharp Eye. Sharp Eye with a 1942D. Up next, Ant 2242. And Ant gets a 1944 Philadelphia, 1944P. And next, register Stephanie. Can somebody put in the email address for me? I don't have my keyboard nearby. It's coppercoinspayments@gmail.com. Send us your real name, which I'm sure Stephanie Pena is your real name, your YouTube username, which is Stephanie Pena, and your email address, your PayPal email address, and you will be registered with us. As soon as you're registered with us, you can bid on and or purchase spots in reveal shows and in auction lots in our auctions. Auctions are on Sunday at 7 p.m. and Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Times. And on Monday at 7 p.m., we sell spots, coins, in rolls, in nice BU rolls that have not yet been opened, so that we can put each coin under a microscope and go through them and give you an opportunity anyway to own some very nice higher grade coins, some die varieties, possibly errors. There's Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. There's one for Mr. Boudreau. Mr. Boudreau gets a nice uncirculated 1944D. A little bit of a wipe on it. coppercoinspayments@gmail.com. And here's Marshall. Marshall, 1948, Philadelphia. See who's next. And next up will be Mark. Mark Thomas. Mark gets a 1946. That's right. Stephanie gets a wrench as soon as Stephanie gives us registration information. That's how we can tell you're a registered user, because a lot of times there are bots, and the spamming bots that come in and steal names, and they'll use your name to post some rather lewd stuff generally, and their name is the same as yours except it's going to be gray. We know if you're registered, and when their name comes up gray and it looks like your name, well, they're actually a bot, and we can kick them out. That was for Parvis, 1944. Nice 1944 for Parvis. And let's see what comes out next. Mr. Fletcher. How about a 1945? 1945 Philadelphia. Oh, it's got a Larry on the back of it. A Larry is a fingerprint. Larry is the quintessential little dude that looks like that little kid in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He's got pudgy little cheeks and has chocolate all over his face and hands all the time. Larry works at the U.S. Mint, scooping up coins to put them in the bags. And sometimes we see Larry's fingerprints on the coins. 1950 for Farm Dog. Let's see what's next. How about Bo Palmer? This coin right here popped up next. 1913S. 1913S. Don't see those every day. That's going to be kind of difficult to reproduce here. Let's see. What come up next? Steven. Steven is next. Gets a 1946. And next in line, Augustus Gloop. That's right, a.k.a. Larry. Mr. Worley, 1944S. 1944S. Roxilla says, well, it's mine are going to be at the end. Marshall. I don't know, bruh. I put them all in here. I don't know what happened to them. Marshall with a 48D. Let's see what's up next. Sharp Eye. Sharp Eye back in with a 1913D. 1913D. Not one of the easy ones to find. Ted Evans. Ted Evans, how about a 1909? For Ted. 1909, first year of issue of the Lincoln Cent. Shake the bag. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll take the bag. Oh, I'll flip the bag upside down so anything that was on the bottom is now on the top. How about that? Shaking the bag, I come out with Angie. Still shaking the bag over here, boss. 1948S for Angie. What do I come out with next? Well, Jeff Dunn. Didn't change my results a whole lot. But I got a 1937 Philadelphia for Jeff Dunn. 1937 Philly. What we do next here? Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne with a 1940. Next up, Stephen. 1948D for Stephen. Get some more coins over here on this side. There we go. All right, next up, Techstar. Techstar gets 1943 Philadelphia. 1943 Steel Cent. Cool hand, Chuck. Everybody got that. Or actually, Carl got that. I don't know how many other people did. Still shaking the bag over here, boss. 1950 for Otis. 1950. Hello, Bill. And still Rockzilla sits and wonders where his name is. Promise you, I poured all 10 of your chips in this bag. Here's Jesse. 1950 for Jesse. And next up, Mr. Wise. Mr. Wise pulls. Ooh, this is nice. 1912S. 1912S. In good condition. That's a $15 coin. Next up, JJ Addict. Is that 46S? No, 46 plain. I'm sorry, 46P. For JJ Addict. Let's see what we have next here. Come on. One chip only. Steven. How about a 1911D? 1911D. That's a $5 coin and good. And Mark. There's another 46. And next up, I still got a whole pile of chips in here. Hey, look, there's Rockzilla. Rockzilla this time around pulls 1949D. Does it have a buy on it? Looks like it might. Maybe not. Looks like it has a buy error. And 1949D. Who's up next? Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray next with 1948D. Nice shiny 1948D. Let's see, what do we pull out of here next? That chip right there. Parvis. Parvis with 1912D. 1912D. And here and now, Donnie Wayne again. Donnie Wayne, 1934. 1934. We have next Sissy. 1948S. As a 1948S. Next up, Mr. Worley, 1935. Now we're going to move on to Taco John. Taco John gets a 1946 Philly. That's for Taco John. And next up, Angie. About 1949D. 49D for Angie. Let's see here. Kind of moved in, moved out. There we go. Stanley. 1948D. 48D for Stanley. Next up. These are going to be mailed out tomorrow, most likely. Tomorrow and Thursday. Here's a 1912D. No, you're not Coins and Ghouls. I didn't know whether I should put you in or not, so I did not. Carl up next. 1943D. $1943D for Carl. And here is Mark with a 1921. Nice 1921. And up next, Crispy. Crispy with a 1947S. 1947S. Here's Rockzilla again. Rockzilla this time. 1944D. Nice little 1944D there. Who's up next? Bo Palmer. I was working on a set one time, and 1950 seemed to be one of the most difficult to get and uncirculated. And there is one right there, 1950. And now Jesse. But a 1950D that's got some interesting toning on it. It's kind of hard to see under the dyno. But that's a 1950D. Hello, Joe. JJ Addict up next. 1944. Philadelphia. JJ Addict. Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast Treasures, sorry, with a 1946. And Richard again. How about a 1950D? 1950D. And here's one from Malcolm. 1947S. 1947S. Can't do standing max order, Sharp Eye. You got to be there live in order to get it. But I plan on doing this probably once every month. Now remember, everyone remember, this is a reminder. Now that I've said the word month, it has reminded me. There's another 1950 plane, this one for Ant. I will be out most of the month of July. I will be flying away from here on the 3rd of July and will not be returning until about the 4th of August. So there will be periods intermittently where you can expect to see me broadcast live from somewhere here or there on my phone, but for the most part I am going to be pretty much gone. There will be no auctions during the month of July. There may be a few roll digs. Who knows what I run into that I'll want to do a roll dig on real quick. There's a 1932D for Paul. 1932D. It's one of the earlier, tougher coins to get. Most of it's a vacation. Yeah, it's going to be a buying vacation. It's going to be a big business trip. Dunny Wayne. Dunny Wayne gets a 1948S. A pretty 1948S. I always profess that it's not work when you do what you like to do. There's Steven. And since I like doing it, it's not really work. 1950D. It's got a little area, a little spot on it there, but 1950D. There we go. Next up, Fat Fool. Reminds me of, gosh, what was it? Austin Powers. You probably put Fat Fool in there because Fat Bastard wasn't allowed. 1933. 1933 for Fat Fool. That's not a real pretty coin, unfortunately. Who's up next? Well, there's Fat Fool again. How about that? A little bit of, yeah, a little bit better coin. It's 1916. 1916. Get in my belly. That's right. Corn? I didn't have any corn. Parviz. Ooh, Parviz gets a nice one. That's a 1913S. 1913S. Most of that dilly-dally is in the holder. Nice little 1913S. That's one of the ones that you're not going to see very commonly. Taco John now. Taco John picks up 1946. 1946. Hello, Taco John. You just walked in right in the nick of time to see yours here. Let's see. Let me push these forward. That would work better. Grab this here and put it in there to help stuff it. All right. Next up, Mr. Boudreaux. Let's see what Mr. Boudreaux gets here. Oh, nice. 1911S. 1911S. That's a fine, close to a very fine coin. Yep, 1911S in fine. You're talking about a $40, $45 coin there. Congrats, Mr. Boudreaux. Really nice semi-key Lincoln cent there. 1911S. There's one for Stanley. Let's see what Stanley comes out with. How about a 1946D for Stanley? And Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray gets, oh, a nice 1931D. 1931D. Next, I reach all the way to the bottom of the bag for Sissy. How about a 1946D for Sissy? Do we still have Stephanie with us? I'm going to check my email address here real quick. Might as well, right? Take a little 20-second break. We're up to probably 100 to 150 coins done. Let's see. Let me check. Check. And check. Nope. I didn't get any, haven't gotten anything for, I haven't got anything for Stephanie yet. Alright, next up. Well, Fat Fool comes back in with 1933D. Nice 1933D Lincoln. It's one of the tougher dates to get. Oop. Once again, folks, like I said earlier, don't pay any attention to the numbers, to the price values on these coins and the grades. I have not graded any of these. There's one for Paul. These coins are straight out of dealer stock from other dealers. It's a 1946S. Nice 1946S for Paul. And let's see, up next. There's Rockzilla again. See, Rockzilla, it's the anticipation that we work. 1939S, that's beautiful. 1939S. For Rockzilla. Angie, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if you're talking about Lincoln cents, it's not going to be a 1921D. They didn't make them. But, of course, you could be talking about a Morgan dollar for all I know. But they didn't make 21D Lincolns. Brendan, 1937. 1937. Yo Man. Yo Man picks a nice uncirculated 1946S. Really nice looking 1946S there. And up next, we have Ted Evans. Ted Evans with a 1940D. 1940D. Let's see what's up next. Otis. Oh, we haven't drawn one of the special chips in a while. Otis gets a nice 1948D. 1948D. Who is up next? And up next will be JJ Addict. JJ Addict gets a 1913D. 1913D, nice honest VG coin. Well, let's see who's up next. Yo Man again. Yo Man now. 1909. This one's not real pretty. That's actually got swirl scratches and stuff on it. I'm going to throw that in here, and then I'm going to reach into my backup box and grab you another coin. Very first thing I grabbed, 1949S, uncirculated. So Yo Man will get that too. That 09 was not a pretty coin. Yes, I did, Kimberly. In fact, you've got spots in this. You're definitely registered. You've already purchased. Let's see. Crispy's up next. Yeah, Kimberly, you have chips in this. 1949 for Crispy. Let's see who's up next. Malcolm. Malcolm gets, well, that's a nice looking 1937D. It says P up here, but it's a 37D. It's a nice 37D. I think I remember selling coins that weren't a whole lot nicer than this one for $19 the other night. Well, you've already had a couple pulled, Kimberly. At least one. I remember your name coming up at least once. Let's see. Here's Angie. Angie now with a 1948S. 1948S for Angie. Who do I get next? Marshall. Marshall, how about a 1943? I still a 1943 for you. Let's see. Next up, Mr. Worley. This is the color of your chips, Kimberly. I think they're green. I can't see color, so forgive me. 1948 for Mr. Worley. 1948. But I know that is your color, Kimberly. It's that same color. Here's another one for Fat Fool. 1941D. Beautiful 1941D. Ah, 12D. Okay. Gotcha. 12D does exist. 21D doesn't. Mr. Worley again. How about a 1942? 1942. Nice, nice. Up next, Crispy. Crispy, 1921S. 1921S. 1921, they made Philadelphia and San Francisco only. Denver Mint coins were not minted in 1921. Then in 1922, Denver was the only mint that minted U.S. Lincoln cents. Let's see. Up next, Malcolm. Malcolm now with a 1948D. Now here's my first one of these coming up next. Let's see who gets it. Techstar. It is a 1950D, and it says that it's BU, but it's in one of these envelopes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this first one out, and we'll take a look at it. There it is. 1950D. And that's what you're getting inside these envelopes. I'm not going to open any more of the envelopes, but that's the gist of what you get. Hello, Marked Money Tech. Let's see who's next. Ant. Ant with a 1950. And next, Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher with a 1946. 1946. We still have 5 $10 chips. We have a $20 chip. We still have other really nice coins in here, higher grade or better date coins. We still have plenty. They're cello sleeves. I think that's what they're called, cello sleeves. Cellophane. Taco John. Taco John, you need new labels. Taco John's been around for quite a while, and I rubbed his labels off. It was a 1945. 1945 right there. 45's got nice double die obverses and reverses. Here is Otis, and Otis, I guess, also picks up a 1945. And now, there's Stephanie's information. Stephanie is now a registered user, and I pulled Kimberly's name. Kimberly picks up a 1940D. I don't like that coin enough for Kimberly. So we're going to pull another one from the backup box, and it turned out not to be a whole lot better, but there's a 1950 for you as well. So I'll stick that with the 1940D, and you'll get the 1940D and the 1950 together. And now, Bo Palmer. Bo, 1948D. See who's next. Steven. 1945. 1945. All right, next up, Carl. Carl gets very nice 1928. 1928. Let's see who's next. There's Malcolm. Malcolm for a nice uncirculated 1945. And then, hey, there's another $10 chip. Another $10 chip, and this one, Fat Fool. $10 chip for Fat Fool. So I'm going to write his name on here. Put that on my $10 chip. Set that up here for Fat Fool, and then we'll pull a coin for him. His coin, relatively nice, 1933. 1933. Right around the Depression era. Depression era coins are difficult to find. That's one of the reasons they were lower circulation those years. Couldn't afford to make them. Mr. Boudreaux, 1945S. 45S for Mr. Boudreaux. Next I drag Mark. And Mark gets 21S. 1921S. Nice looking coin there. In VF, that's a what, $15 coin. Parviz. Parviz gets... Yeah, somebody was on crack here. It's not a $22 coin. It's a 46D. It's a select BU at best. I'm gonna call it a $1 coin. That's not the greatest, but it's there nonetheless. Let's see here. Get my stuff straight. Try to get straightened out so I can keep doing what I was doing. Who's next? JJ Addict. JJ gets 1931D. Nice 1931D. And up next, Stephanie, in case you did not hear me and you happen to be around, I did get your registration information. Here's one for Ted Evans. 1946D for Ted Evans. Let's see. Next up, Patreus. Patreus with a 1934. 1934 for Patreus. Next one up. Richard. Back again. 1947 Philly. Very nice 1947 Philly. Super high dollar rolls. I think they go for over $110, $120 maybe, $130. That's for a roll. Here's Mr. Boudreaux. 1939S for Mr. Boudreaux. Let's see, what can I do next? Here's Kimberly D again. Kimberly D this time. 1938S. 1938S. Those don't pop up very commonly. Well, next. There's Richard again. Richard now with a 1946S. Couple of spots. And the obverse. Reverse is real nice. That's for Richard. Oops. Next up, Angie. And Angie now with a 1933D. Nice 1933D. Well, Kimberly. Back to Kimberly again. And we get a 1950. If I remember correctly, she already had a 1950, so I'm going to draw a different coin. Well, there we go. Pulled out one that's nicer, a 1933. 1933 for Kimberly. If I get any duplicates on you guys, I'm going to take the worst of your duplicates and redraw for you. If you want me to. If you don't... Oh, I pulled the coin first. I meant to pull the person first. Penny Hoarder. 1944. If you don't mind duplicates, just don't mention it. If you don't want duplicates, you need to let me know, so I can do redraws on your duplicates if you have any. There's one for Jeff Dunn. 1946 plane. Yo Man. Yo Man, 1950. That's an ugly coin. We're going to redraw. Oh, here we go. Redraw pulled out in 1942. Nice one. For Yo Man. Up next, Jeff. 1944. Malcolm. 1913. For Malcolm. Okay. Rockzilla says no duplicates, please. Take notes here. There we go. All right, next up. Mark. Mark gets 1926S. That's a Woody. 1926S. Nice. 26S is a decent value coin. And next we have Marshall. Marshall with a 1946. And up next. Okay. Angie, I'll take note of that. Penny Hoarder. Penny Hoarder gets a 1923S. Penny Hoarder with a 23S. Next up, Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray with a 1948. And next, Jesse. 1944. Jesse. Next up, you can see it's a closed envelope. Yo Man. It's a 1950D. Closed up in the envelope. It says it's BU. Should be. Thinking it'll be a pretty decent one. Try to get something a little better in here. There, that might work a little bit better. There. Just trying to keep those from sliding around. All right, Mr. Boudreau. Mr. Boudreau, how about a 1926? 1926, a nice one. Yeah, who do I pull out next? My next person will be Techstar. Techstar with a 1917S. 1917S for Techstar. Paul Hampton. 1945. Still got plenty of winners in here. Still got, 4 of the $10 chips and a $20 chip. There's another one for Paul. 1923S for Paul. 1923S. Gulf Coast. Guess I can't keep these things from running themselves out of order. Here's a 1945. Nice looking 1945 for Gulf Coast. Let's see who's next. Techstar. Techstar with a 1947S. 1947S. Alright, let's see who's next. Sharp Eye. Sharp Eye comes out with a 1950D. 1950D. Nope, something didn't work right there. Hang on, I got a little bit of a blowout. Techstar, then Sharp Eye. There we go. I need a little better dividers in my box. Alright, Fat Fool comes in next. How about a 1950 Philadelphia? Actually, if I do this... Nope. Alright, boys and girls, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my box. It's not agreeing with me. So, there we go. Stand that back up. There we go. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Mark up next. 1941S. 1941S for Mark. Next up, Mr. Wise. Mr. Wise with a nice 1928. 1928. Now we have Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray in with a 1950. 1950. Next we have Yeoman. 1945. 1945 for Yeoman. Next up, Techstar. Techstar 1940 for Techstar. There we go, that. Parviz up next. 1923S. Another real nice one. Almost kind of a scarce date, 23S. It's one of the more difficult 1920s to get. There's one for Penny Hoarder. Penny Hoarder gets a 1944S. Please remember these coins are not searched for die varieties, so there's any RPMs or double dies in the source that I got. They're being passed directly on to you. There's a 1948 for Jeff. Let's see. Next up, Ant. Ant gets one of my 1950Ds. You'll take the duplicate Sharp Eye? Sounds good to me. Let's see here. What's next? Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast up next. How about a 1926D? 1926D for Gulf Coast. And then next we draw Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray with a 1932D. Let's see who's next. Crispy with a crispy chip. 1946D. 46D. And next, Mr. Wise. 1936 Philly. I pulled some 36s, put them in there because I was hoping maybe there'd be a double die or two. You never know. You can find 3 of them in a roll, or you can go 12 bags and never see one. So, it's the luck of the draw, I guess. 1947D for Rockzilla. So your chips are coming out. Slowly but surely. Oh, looky there. Yeah, $20 chip. Who's going to turn up $20? 20, anybody bit of 20. Who is it? Who is it? By now, all of you should know the colors of your chips, right? Huh? Wonder who belongs to that. You got one of the gray chips. Brendan and Burke. Brendan, congratulations, Brendan. Your second prize there. $20. There's Brendan's $20 chip. Congratulations, Brendan. Now we pull a coin for him. And his coin turns out to be not such a great 1946D. But he got a $20 winner on that one. Still got 4 $10 winners in here. Still got 4 $10 chips. Here's one for Steven. Steven, 1939. 1939. Next up, Parvez. Parvez comes back in with a 1947. Nice 1947. Next up, Mr. Fletcher. Well, how about a 1946? 1946. Of course, Donnie Wayne got 20 earlier, but he did it the hard way. He got 2 $10 chips in a row. That's lucky. Patreus, 1950. Considering there's 370 chips? No, 365. Yep, 365. Then 372, 374. 374 chips total. And you get 2 bonuses in a row. Out of those 374 chips, only 7 of them were $10. 1944D for Malcolm. So somebody can work up the statistics in that. It's got to be like a 1 in 100 odds of getting 1. Jesse, 1945. Next up, Techstar. Techstar, how about a 1941D? A nice looking 1941D. That's over $150 a roll for those. 1941D. What comes next? Sharp Eye. Sharp Eye. Got a nice 1943D. One little spot on the obverse. It has a Larry DNA kit on the reverse. Carl? Carl, how about a 1916D? That ought to work. 1916D, you're talking about a $5 coin. How about now, Ted Evans? Ted, 1947S. 1947S. Ant. Ant with a 1945. Ant with a 1945. Let's see. Next up here be Jesse. But a 1950D. 1950D. It's got a couple spots on it, but it's a nice bright coin. 1950D. Next up, Stanley. About 1933 for Stanley. 1933 Woody. Nice little wood grain coin there. 1933 Woody for Stanley. That's got to be worth something, right? Angie. 1940. 1940 for Angie. Next up, Yo Man. How about a 1947D? 1947D. Some of these coins have been in these holders for probably 20 to 30 years. Some of them longer than that. A number of these were actually in the holders probably before I was born. So don't pay attention to the prices on the holders. It's a 1913D. 1913D. Beautiful 1913D. Actually, pretty nice one. As for Techstar, let's see what comes up next. Patreus. Patreus. 1946. Oh, we still got a lot of chips in here. Parvis. Still got a lot of chips. Parvis. How about a 1941? 1941. And next up, Mr. Boudreaux. 1942D. 42D from Mr. Boudreaux. Next up, Patreus again. Back to Patreus, and Patreus gets 1916S. 1916S. And next up, Paul. Paul, how about a 1944D? Bit of a Woody there. A little bit on the reverse, but it's mostly on the obverse. Good for you, brother. Let's see what I got up next. 1945 1945 for JJ Addict. 1945 for JJ Addict. Next up here, Jim Worley gets the 1950D BU in an envelope. Oh, let's look at this one. Why not, right? Takes a little bit of extra time, but it's not a big deal. Looky there. Very nice, like in 1950D there. That's for Mr. Worley. Next up, Mark. Mark with a 1950 Philadelphia. 1950 Philly. Richard. $1945. 1945. A little bit of a Larry on that one. Next up, Rockzilla. Rockzilla 1944. Nice looking 1944. Let's see what we have now. Bo Palmer. Bo gets a 1913D. 1913D. And next up, Stephen. Was it 1946? Or Stephen, 1946. Here we go, Mr. Patreus. Patreus with a 1949D. 1949D. Mr. Wise. And we have a 1950 for Mr. Wise. Take this box out. Bring this box in. Do not try this at home. We are what you call professionals. There we go. All right. Myself set up for the dance. Here we go. Next up, Richard. What does Mr. Sappington get here? How about a 1946D? 1946D. And the next contestant, Techstar. Techstar, 1931D. It's a really nice 1931D, actually. It's an upper end, very fine coin. Very nice. Let's see, Taco John. Taco John up next. And Taco John will get 1940-60. And next up, Bo Palmer, 1934. Next, Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast, 1947D. And next, Penny Hoarder, Penny Hoarder with a 1939S. Mr. Fletcher, 1939. Taco John, 1946S. 1946S. Well, Taco John again. How about 1948D this time? 1948D. How about this time? Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne, 1912D. 1912D for Donnie Wayne. And next up, what do we have next here? Bo, 1919S. 1919S for Bo. Another now, Stephen Dallas. Stephen Dallas with a 1948S. Next up, Penny Hoarder, 1941. 1941 for Penny Hoarder. Nice year. There's one for Paul Hampton. What is that? 1942. Really nice BU 1942 Lincoln Cent there. And up next, looks like it's a pretty nice coin coming up. Let's see who it goes to. Kelly Ray. She could probably use some cheering up with a nice coin. 1916S. Nice little 1916S. Let's see what's next. Patreus. 1947S. Very nice looking 1947S. Next in, Mr. Boudreau. Well, Mr. Boudreau picks a 1950D. 1950D. And next out of the bag, Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn with a 1927D. 1927D. I feel like a bingo color. B4. B4. Ben Stein calling bingo. Anyone? 1915D. This one goes to Kimberly. 1915D. One of the tougher earlier issues. And back to the bag I go. Crispy label. I have to redo your labels, bro. 1946. A piece of plastic laying there. A piece of 2x2 laying there. And let's see. What do we do next here? Fat Fool. 1949S. 1949S. All right. Next up, Otis. 1944. 1944. Let's see here. Crispy Mofo, a 1948D. 1948D for Crispy. What is next? 'Tis next Patreus. And Patreus gets a 1911D. 1911D. Let's see. Next, Stephen Dallas. 1946. 1946. And Carl. Carl up next with 1932D. Nice one. 1932D. It's a tough issue. You say that every time you draw one. Well, it doesn't change. Truth is the truth. Wow, we still got a bunch of chips. Let's say a heaping pile of about 75 chips left. Otis, 1946D. Looks like I'm definitely going to need another box. Let me get another box. Okay, Carl. I appreciate it, sir. Got you on the list. All right, who's next? Wait a minute. Oh, there's my stuffy stuff. Where my stuffy stuff went. There's my stuffy stuff. All right. Let's get on with it. Pull. 1935. 1935 for Paul. Maybe I should do nature documentaries. Start thinking about that. Somebody said today that I had a voice for radio. It means I got a perfect face for radio, right? All right, that's a 1941S. It's got a Larry on the front of it. It's like, must be Larry's father or grandfather. I've got a perfect voice for radio. Angie. I see myself doing that. 47D. Out of severe boredom and tedium, wanting a job that he could never enjoy, Chuck decides to start doing nature videos about ants. Kimberly, 1946D. Okay, Otis, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Here's one from Mark. Mark? 1939. Ah, the one has a grease filling over it, so it's a 939. That's interesting. You've been told you have a face for radio? There you go. That's the way that works, right? We interrupt this broadcast with a special report. 1946S. 1946S. And Paul Hoarder. Paul Hoarder. Paul, what did I say, Paul? Penny Hoarder. Penny Hoarder, 1916D. Nice little 1916D. Got that going for you. Let's see here. Taco John. Taco John up next. Nice little 1940S. 1940S. Been on for 2 hours now. Right at about 2 hours. A little long. Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast, 1942. Next up, Bo. 1917. That's for Bo Palmer. Nice little 1917. Up next, Brendan Burke. 1948. Next up, Mr. Fletcher. 1944S. That's for Mr. Fletcher. And here is JJ Addict. 1948. 1948. Next up, Bo again. It's been a long time since I've drawn one of those special chips. What's going on? 1950D. 1950D for Bo. Mr. Palmer. I'm jinxing myself, I guess. Taco John needs new chips. Here's a 1947D for Taco John. Ah, look at that. There it goes. What do we have next? Hey, look at that. Angie. $10 for Angie. And she gets one of those BU 1950Ds. That was written in fountain pen, so that's been around for quite a while. There we go. So I'm going to put Angie's name on this chip. There we go. Next up, Mr. Wise has a 1945S. 1945S. I think Angie went to sleep. And that's not fair. She's in the Central Time Zone, so she's an hour behind me. Rockzilla. Rockzilla gets a 1941. Nice looking 1941 for Rockzilla. Let's see. Next up, Penny Hoarder. Penny Hoarder gets a 1942. How about next, Richard? 1915D. And 1915D for Richard. Stephen Dallas. 1947S. 1947S. God, look at that. Another one of them. I'm starting to get lower on the number of chips I have, so it makes it a little easier to find these. Yeah, that one's for Marshall. And Marshall will get a 1950D. Put Marshall's name on the chip. And there's Marshall's coin. I bet he fell asleep too. Malcolm. Malcolm up next. 1945. Pretty nice looking 1945 there. All right, let's see who's next. Into the bag I go. Angie comes up again. Angie this time with a 1950D. 1950D. Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray up next. How about a 1926D? 1926D. That woke you up. Marshall. Here's one for Kimberly. Can't read it right now. Let's see what it is. 1932D. 1932D for Kimberly. What can I do for ad hoc entertainment while I'm in the middle of all this? Something that I can say or do that'll help everyone. I don't know. 1929D. If everybody just wants to watch the names go by, we can actually discuss something different while I'm doing this. So you can read the name on that. Then you can see what this is. And unless it's a high dollar coin or a key date coin or a semi-key, there's not really a whole lot else to say about it. The 1935S. Stephen Dallas. Sharp Eye next. 1947D. 1947D. Marshall. Back up. 1946D. 1946D. What is next? Jesse. 1939. 1939. Talk about my working vacation. Well, the first thing that I'll be doing, Marshall again. Marshall gets all of his in a row here. How about a 1947? Nice looking 1947. First thing I'll be doing is flying down to Florida to spend a few days with my father around the 4th of July holiday. Haven't done that with him in probably 5 or 6 years now. And so we're going to get to probably go down to the bay and watch the fireworks at the bay. It's 1913D for Kelly Ray. And we might go fishing. We might just hang out for a while. But then Eric will be coming by to pick me up in a rental car. And we'll be going to the fun show in Orlando together. Spending the 6th and the 7th at the fun show in Orlando. If anyone else is going to be there on the Thursday or Friday, I believe we're going to stay Thursday and Friday. Let me know and we'll try to plan some sort of get together, dinner and drinks or something to that effect. Here's a 1948S for Taco John. Then after that, I have a purchase to go pick up in Gainesville, Florida. Mr. Boudreaux. Uncirculated 1941. That'll work, right? And then I have more coins to go pick up in Jacksonville, Florida. This one for Gulf Coast, 1916D. And then Eric and I will be driving back to my office in North Carolina, where we will be joined by Brian Allen, and all three of us are going to set up our equipment in my office and compare notes. That's a nice 1947S right there for Ted Evans. Oh, very cool, JJ Addict. 35 FS 101. Nice doubling in the date on those. Here's one for Penny Hoarder, 1927D. 1927D for Penny Hoarder. And so we're going to spend, I'm going to say probably 4, 5, 6 days together. And then Eric and Brian will head back to their respective homes while I prepare myself for a trip to the Midwest. I will be going to Illinois first, where I will be stopping at the house of a friend, and we will be traveling together to St. Louis to go to the Missouri Numismatic Society show. The MNS show is I think the last full weekend of July. So we'll be doing that show, probably just a Thursday, Friday, maybe Saturday stop there. Come in Thursday to set up and do a Friday, Saturday. Steve in Dallas, out 1942. Nice little Woody, 1942. And then after that show, we'll be traveling up to Springfield, Illinois for a show on Sunday. That's the Sunday, the last full weekend of July. I think it's like the 25th, 26th, 27th, something like that, 24th. I don't know. Don't remember. I think 21st and 22nd is a Missouri show. And then the 23rd, whatever that Sunday is, anywhere close to the 23rd, will be the Springfield show. And then the following day, here's one for Kimberly in 1932. Pretty low 1932. That one's nearly and extremely fine. Then I'll spend a couple of other days. I will not be in Chicago. Will not be going to Chicago. Here's one for Sissy. 1932D. Really nice looking 32D. I kept a hyper 12-year-old watching for 2 hours. Awesome. That's something right there. I'll tell you what. Donnie Wayne. How about a 1913D? 1913D for Donnie Wayne. But after I get finished with my business, the show in Springfield, the following day I have a private appointment with a retired dealer in Illinois, where I will be looking through his inventory and making purchases from his inventory, possibly buying all of his copper. Now Otis is a 1940D. Beautiful 1940D for Otis. Very nice. Real nice uncirculated coin. And after that, I'll spend another day or so, perhaps with my friend in Illinois, prior to traveling to Missouri, southern Missouri, to visit my family. I will be going on a 2-day kayak excursion with my brother, somewhere in the wilderness of southern Missouri. There's one for Sharp Eye. Not exactly sure what river we're going to be on, but we're going to go out on the river. Spend a couple of days out there. And then I'll spend the weekend with my brother and his wife and son and my mom and my aunts and uncles and cousins, if we happen to get together for a dinner. I believe it's Sunday. I think it's Sunday. Is the 1st of August will be my birthday. So we might get together and have a dinner to celebrate my birthday, and that'll be the first time that's happened with my family in many years. There's a 32D for Mr. Wise. Yeah, Branson's not too far away from where I'll be. In fact, I may actually go through Branson if we end up going to Arkansas to the river. I'm not really sure where we're going to be doing the river. I leave that up to my brother. He knows more about where to go for stuff than I do. All right, Mr. Fletcher is up next. Mr. Fletcher will get this 1924S. 1924S. Nice one, too. And then after that weekend, probably the 2nd of August, I will take off and head back to Illinois to fill my truck with all the goodies that I purchased while in Illinois and head home. And I will be home somewhere around the 3rd, 4th, or 5th of August. Here's one for Rockzilla. Rockzilla gets 1935. 1935. Yeah, so I'll be kind of busy through most of the month. I will come on for a live here and there. We may even come on for a bit of a show, maybe an educational show. Who knows what we come up with? We might come up with some idea, something to do. Another one for Jesse. Jesse with a 1946D. And Rockzilla again. Here's Rockzilla, 1939. What's that? After one BOS 33 GS 22. Kimberly. Kimberly up next gets one of the 1947 Lincoln Cents. Really nice shiny one. I believe it is. The Current River? I think it is. I'm not sure if he might want to go all the way down to the Buffalo and just do the Buffalo River. I'm not sure. I leave it up to him. His kayaks. Oh, that's cleaned. I'm going to give you another coin, Bo. Let's see. Well, I have to draw from back here somewhere. Let's see. That one feels like a nice coin right there. Let's see what that is. Oh, it's a 46D. Tried. I don't do cleaned coins, and I don't sell cleaned coins. So, if I get a cleaned one, I replace it. Otis gets a 1950D, one of our uncirculated 1950Ds, and this writing is on here in fountain pen. That is fountain pen writing. So it's old. Been there for a while. Kimberly back again. Another 1947 for Kimberly. Ant. What do we get for Ant? 1946. Mr. Worley. 1940. Nice looking 1940. I really like the Buffalo River. I've done that one a few times. Sissy. 1948D. Yeah, but there's some chance that over the summer, prior to my return to business, I will be picking up thousands and thousands of coins. So you will have to keep tuned in. Here's Patreus. Patreus gets in 1947. 1947 for Patreus. Now Stephen Dallas. Stephen Dallas, how about a 1924S? 1924S. Stanley. 1940D. 1940D. I'm going to package all this up tonight. Work on getting mail out tomorrow. What I don't get out tomorrow will go out on Thursday. By the end of the day on Thursday, I'm going to be all caught up. Tomorrow I've got, I think I have 3 or 4 reveals scheduled for tomorrow. There's for Ant. That's going to be on Thursday. Thursday and Friday will be mail days. Saturday will be a catch-up on whatever I couldn't get done Thursday or Friday. Stephen Dallas again. Stephen Dallas this time, a 1945S. That's right, tomorrow is Thursday. I just looked. So tomorrow I will be doing 3 reveals plus mail. And then Friday I'll be doing reveals again plus mail. So Sharp Eye gets a 1941D. Pretty nice looking 1941D. I've still got a full schedule. However, here's what we're going to do. Next week, or this coming weekend, Sunday, then Monday, then Tuesday, we will have our normal shows. Sunday, auction. Monday, reveal show. And Tuesday will be an auction again. 1921S for Gulf Coast there. And then, after that... Ooh, looky, there we go. Hold that thought. Let me grab somebody's name here. Malcolm. Malcolm gets a $10 chip, $10 credit. And that's cleaned. I see that from a distance. 1945. 1945 for Malcolm. Next up, Stephen. 1950D. So this coming weekend there will be an auction on Sunday, a reveal show on Monday, and then an auction on Tuesday. And that's where I cut off. Thereafter, I'll be preparing for my trips away. I may do another auction or two, but I will not be doing any more reveals through the remainder of June. And the reason for that is because Eric will be along the trail with me. He will not be at home to work on reveals. So I'm going to give him a good opportunity to finish up all the reveals and get them all mailed out. 1933 for Mr. Wise. So this coming weekend is the last of the reveals until I come back in August. 1944 for Farm Dog. Next up, Stanley. Stanley with a 1926D. A Jailhouse set. Are you talking about a 1922 plane that has a Clash? What's a Jailhouse set? I'm not really sure what you're talking about, Mark. Going for Taco John. 1941. Nice little 1941. Ted Evans. Ted now with a 1933. You have to send me an email, Mark. Send me an email. Let me know what a Jailhouse set is and what you're looking for. Oh, you need the 22 plane and you're working on a Memorial Clash set. Okay. Well, the Jailhouse Clashes are scattered. They're not real easy to find, but I'll look for some. 46D for you, man. Okay, got it. Understood. I know what a 22 plane had to do with a jailhouse. That was confusing. 1936. Nice 1936 for Parviz. Got some good ones coming out tonight. I'm down to, I'm going to say, roughly a dozen. Maybe a little more. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the $10 chips are gone. There's only one left. Carl? 46D. Mr. Boudreau, a Jailhouse Die Clash is where the memorial sets from 1959 to 2008. The obverse and reverse dies would slam together with no planchet between them. And given that, the obverse design and the reverse design would transpose to one another from the die to the die. And when you hit the columns of the reverse up against the obverse, and then you mint coins with it, the subsequent coins, that's a nice one there, in 1947 for Rockzilla. The subsequent coins look like bars because it's the columns on the memorial building look like bars behind Lincoln's head. So if you look at the design, it looks like Lincoln in a jail cell because it looks like he's got jail bars around him. That's what a jailhouse Lincoln is. They're not extremely common. They're not highly scarce, but they're not extremely common either. They're kind of hard to find, and it's fun to try to build a set of them. 41D for Jesse. Steven. 1942D for Steven. Hey, looky there. There's our last $10 chip. Let's see who this is going to go to. Let me dig deep in the bag and make sure all the chips are up front. Okay, they are. I've got about a half a dozen chips left. So someone, Ted Evans, will end up with this. So let me write his name. Looks like got a bunch of different winners, which is good. Okay, here's Ted and his coin, 1920S. 1920S. And I have, there's some extra coins in here. This is my backup. I've already drawn from it a few times. Okay, I've got all the chips left. I'm going to keep them in this order. Instead of trying to feel for them out of the bag, I'm just going to take them off the stack. So here we go. First one, Yo Man. 47S. 47S for Yo Man. Next one, Yo Man again. 1927S. 1927S. Next one, Angie. 1944D. 1944D. Next one, Fat Fool. It's a 1946. 1946. Keep these things pointed straight up here. There, that'll help. Next one, JJ Addict. JJ Addict, 1946. Next one, Brendan. Brendan, 1945. 1945. Next one up, Dunny Wayne. Dunny Wayne, 1948D. 1948D. G56. G56. O72. Oh, that's what I feel like. Make sure that the bag is empty. And the bag is empty. I have 3 chips left. Ant is my first one. How about a 1912D? 12D for Ant. Second one, Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray with a 1931. 1931. And very last, but not least, is Malcolm. And Malcolm's coin, it's 1950. Kind of wished I... Oh, this is the junk I put back. Hang on. Let's do that again. I threw that one over here and I landed in that spot. Here, let me go back here and just draw. The last one should be nice. It should be something a little more special. Well, how about a 48D? A 48D looks pretty nice. All right, folks, that is it for me. I appreciate you guys being here. And if you want to do this, send me an email. Just let me know that you want to keep doing this. Have any suggestions, thoughts, or comments, let me know. And I will be talking to you guys later. Have a great night.